Hey there, friends. Thank you so much for joining us on Weather Out West on this Friday. I'm meteorologist Ashley Ruiz. Here's what we're tracking for you on this Friday. After an atmospheric river brought a lot of rain, wind, mountain snow, and coastal flooding to the northwest, the weather is finally settling on down. We'll have those forecasts for you coming up. And people in Jamaica still fighting to survive after Hurricane Melissa's destructive impact. We'll have the latest. Then we'll share some winter preps to keep the pollinators in your yard or garden happy. And you'll never know what you'll find in the waters off San Diego. We've got a big catch later on in the show. Once again, we want to thank you for joining us on this Friday to Weather Out West. And if you haven't joined us before, this is an hour-long show where we tell you what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. And we also have some climate and environment stories to share with you. Today, we're going to begin in the Pacific Northwest because cities along the Washington coast have battled rising waters and costly floods for years, and a massive levee project is planned to help. But that plan is in limbo right now as the federal government holds on to the majority of the funding. Big waves, heavy rains, and king tides yesterday reminded residents in Grays Harbor County of the need for flood walls. In 2022, FEMA awarded around $90 million in grant money to fund 2 new levees that would protect more than 5,000 properties, which that stretch is about 11 miles between Aberdeen and Hoquiam in southern Washington. Here's what Brian Shea, the Hoquiam City Administrator, had to say.
My arms are extending straight down the line of where the levee will go, and the top of the levee will be about this high. So you imagine where the river is today. I mean, we'd have a flood wall up to this height that would protect us from flooding.
Despite the setback, bidding for one of the levees will start early next year. And staying in Washington, I mentioned after a soggy stretch of weather, heavy rain, wind, coastal flooding, things are finally settling on down. Seattle's Rich Marriott is here with your weekend forecast.
Hi and happy Friday. I'm King 5 meteorologist Rich Marriott, and well, we've moved through several really stormy days here in the Pacific Northwest with a lot of rain and wind, but things are calming down as we head towards the weekend, which is really good news. We've been promising sunshine for the weekend all week, so fortunately we are going to deliver on that. Shorter term though, we saw that system move through overnight last night. It's left behind some showers that have been with us this morning, though they have gradually decreasing in numbers and intensity, and we also have a little bit of rain shadowing over the central sound. We have west flow coming out of the Pacific, and we're seeing rain shadowing really from about South Seattle on up to northern Snohomish County during the morning commute. Stay pretty dry there. Well, we've been seeing quite a few showers down in the South Sound and some up there towards the Whatcom and Skagit counties as well. But those showers will continue to diminish, and soon we won't be seeing quite as many moving through the South Sound. Checking the Port Angeles Tower cam, you see we've got the sunshine already starting to break out, and we're seeing that in quite a few spots. As a matter of fact, Everett's been having some sun breaks occasionally here for the last hour or two, and similarly there in Tacoma, starting to see our first sun break there as the showers kind of continue to move through the South Sound, but soon there'll be more sun and fewer showers. So that's the trend we're looking for. And at Westport out along the coast, they've been seeing some showers, but you can see also starting to see some blue skies. So the trend is where we want to see them. All the rain has been a little tough on the commutes and such, and certainly a lot of leaves have come down and clogged drains, but boy, really helping out in terms of the drought we've been into. You can see there, these are plus signs in that departure column. We're almost a little over an inch and a half there in Bellingham. Out at SeaTac, a little over an inch ahead, and over an inch and a half ahead out there at Hoquiam along the coast as well. It is the wettest month of the year, and we're going to take a little bit of a break from the heavy rainfall, but I'm sure there's going to be more headed our way here shortly. Take a look at our extended forecast. In fact, you can see what I'm talking about. Showers are going to decrease today, and then over the weekend we're looking at fair weather. We're going to be seeing some low clouds and fog in the mornings, long nights and some clearing skies, plus the wet ground. It's going to allow that fog to form in a lot of places, but it should burn off pretty quickly. And we actually get some warmer air moving in here as we head towards Sunday that could warm us into the upper 50s and low to maybe even a few mid 60s on Sunday afternoon. So that's something to look forward to. It does turn a little showery as we move into the first part of next week, but definitely not the stormy weather we've had over the course of the last week to 10 days. So getting a little bit of a breather. You can see a pretty good looking storm sitting out here as the overnight storm moves on out, but we have high pressure building in between us. That is going to force this system northward into British Columbia. It should leave us high, dry, and partly sunny for the weekend, which will be a very pleasant change. Checking up in the mountains, beautiful shot from Hurricane Ridge. It's a little above 5,000 feet, and our snowfall primarily was above 5,000 feet with these systems, even after the snow levels came down, but looking pretty nice. It looks like we picked up anywhere from about 2 to 3 inches, maybe 4 inches at the most of the 5,000 foot level. There at Paradise and Mount Rainier, there was a snow-covered parking lot. They plowed it, and so it's kind of melting right now, but looking at their automated telemetry, it looked like 2 or 3 inches of new snow in the last 24 hours. Not really impacting travel across the main passes. Snoqualmie Pass pretty much stayed rain. We're going to be looking for no restrictions there at all. And then for Stevens Pass, White Pass, Blewett Passes, traction tires advised with just a little bit of snow and slush on the roadways. Not really good looking in terms of getting any buildup of the snowpack for the start of our ski and snowboarding season. We're around 3,500 feet today, but that's going to rise to about 5,000 this afternoon. And then over the weekend, we're going to be partly sunny to start with, but also those freezing levels are going to be high enough to put the snow levels up between about 9,000 and 11,000 feet. And after we start seeing the showers again, we still stay up above about 7,000 to 9,000 feet. So not really helping us out much in terms of getting the ski season underway. So shorter term today, decreasing showers and clearing, temperatures getting to the mid 50s. Areas of morning clouds and fog, but that should burn off pretty quickly Saturday and Sunday to sunshine on that mild afternoon Sunday. Showers and sun breaks Monday, just a couple showers hanging on Tuesday. Looks like a dry day Wednesday, and then increasing rain again as we head towards Thursday, though not looking particularly stormy towards the end of next week. So we're definitely getting a breather. Those highs staying mostly in the mid 50s.
From Seattle all the way down to Portland on I-5, let's take you there because Rod Hill has a look at the forecast and tells us when the rain returns.
On a Friday, I know it's not the weekend yet, it's Friday. I'm Rod Hill, but we are celebrating our first dry weekend upcoming in a month. That's our overwhelming headline on the marquee. I want to step back real quick and talk about wind gusts that came without warning, literally, to the Oregon coast yesterday between 1 and 2:30. There were no warnings up, and I stood here 24 hours ago and told folks that it wouldn't be as windy Thursday as it would be Wednesday, as it was Wednesday. And that was mostly true except for the coast between 1 and 2:30 when our last weather system pushed inland. A quick burst of wind produced 66 mile per hour gusts in Astoria, 63 Newport. This was outside of Garibaldi, about 2 miles outside of town, 79 mile per hour gusts and 53 up at Timberline. Now, luckily, these are all areas, obviously, that get wind, so we're not seeing any reports of damage or anything like that. The jet stream played a role in that, we believe, of strong winds aloft. And that jet stream still into us early this morning, feeding scattered showers. But when you hear a forecaster talk about ridging, they're talking about what you're seeing here. This is the jet stream going into the weekend, kind of arcing high around us. And literally systems out in the Pacific hit this wind burst and they get held back. It's like a wall. And because the weather systems then are kind of protected from moving into our area, we typically associate ridging with dry weather. And that's what we're going to have this weekend. Winds will be light except for east winds coming out of the gorge will pick back up because we're going to have a surface high move in and we'll be on the back side of that high and that'll give us those east winds. Here's the moisture break. It doesn't look like it's a definite yet, but these clouds and this system will hold out to sea. And again, we will become all dry. We'll start to see that ridging take hold later today. Futurecast takes the scattered showers we have this morning, including some pretty good ones, and pretty much dries us out by 5 or 6 p.m. And then we get going into the weekend all dry. Not perfectly clear. Here's partly cloudy skies tomorrow. Maybe some mid to high level clouds on Sunday. But we think Sunday's the best bet to see some decent blue sky as well. And again, the east winds gusting to about 30 coming out of the gorge. Those winds return tonight into tomorrow. Up in the mountains real quick, Timberline picked up 2 inches of new snow. The snow level generally did hold above passes. There was a little bit of snow around Santiam Pass this morning, but the roadway was fine. And the Cascade roadways are just wet and clean today. All right, here's some cameras. We are getting sun breaks mixed in with the showers. Lincoln City at this moment showing beautiful blue skies from our Chinook Winds Casino resort camera. You can see raindrops on the lens and some breaks in the cloud cover along the Columbia River. Folks coming in from Vancouver, the Springs at the waterfront camera. Oh, this has been pretty. Salem has been mostly sunny this morning, while Portland has had some scattered showers move through. So really pretty shot of our state capital. High temperatures today, mainly reaching 50 or better. Could be a few spots out east holding in the upper 40s. And again, statewide, we think the showers are out of here by this evening. So it is weekend time. 57 today, all dry tonight, and pretty warm this weekend. I mean, 60 is considered warm, right, for this time of the year. 60 tomorrow, 63 on Sunday. Don't forget the east winds gusting to 30 near the gorge, but if you are wind protected because of topography from the wind, you'll have light winds. Then shower chances return, it looks like, starting Monday afternoon.
CNN's David Culver visits hard-hit communities in Jamaica as people fight to survive after Hurricane Melissa's destructive impact.
We are catching some water because that's the only way we can get water. We are damaged here in Jamaica, real bad.
Across much of western Jamaica, the storm has passed, but you feel it everywhere. Survival mode has kicked in.
In here in Belmont, we are very distressed and we really need some help because you have persons who are very homeless and we don't really have any food supplies.
This is where you live here?
Now they're coming to terms with what's left, and for many here, it's not much.
This was your bed?
Yeah. I'm in my bed. Look at your bed mashed up.
It's all mashed up, you're right. You're right.
There's one here. This is one of our neighbor house also. Her house destroyed also. Everybody house in this community is very destroyed. We don't see nobody. And that I keep on wondering. We have suffered here and nobody comes to assist. You know how we even get some things like these? It's persons who are going around in vehicle and giving out a little portion of tokens.
As one resident pointed out, even if a house is still standing because of concrete, most likely the windows were shattered and water got in, sand got in, furniture, clothes, all their belongings destroyed. I mean, it just continues. It's endless. I mean, you look up there and it just goes all the way up.
That was David Culver reporting. After the break, we're headed to California with forecasts from Sacramento and San Diego. Welcome back to Weather Out West on this Friday. You heard us talking all week long about an atmospheric river hitting the West Coast. Well, that atmospheric river hit the Bay Area on Wednesday, bringing heavy rain and slick road conditions. We check in with CNN's Suzanne Fawn with more.
The rain, the wind,
very windy,
and the rising water made for some wild weather in parts of the Bay Area.
It was quite a storm for a little while.
In Mill Valley along Miller Avenue on Camino Alto, streets were closed off.
It's often commonly flooding over there.
It's the tide, the king tides. You know, the big moon means big tides.
At Tamalpais High School, we encountered a couple of students scrambling to pull their cars out because of the rising tide water.
It's just been going up and up.
Boston Nahigian went barefoot because there was so much water.
It was probably about a foot, maybe a foot and a half. Yeah, I had to pull up my jeans and it got up to about halfway up my shin, right about to there.
Nahigian got his car out in the nick of time.
My friends were saying it got about as close to the exhaust as it could get without going in.
Heavy rain and slick road conditions often mean fender benders. In Novato, police say this SUV driver hydroplaned off the freeway down a ravine. Earlier this Wednesday morning, a wet waterfront in San Francisco. Powerful waves slamming into the sidewalk here along the Embarcadero. In downtown San Francisco, umbrellas were getting a lot of love as people headed on their way to and from the office. The rain tapered off, giving way to gusty conditions. Strong winds swept away the leaves. For some folks and their four-legged friends, it was a chance to enjoy a brisk walk. Back to Mill Valley in the Tam Junction area, much of the tidewater receded late this afternoon. What started as atmospheric river conditions has tapered off, but many Bay Area residents take it all in stride.
I don't think you can fool with Mother Nature, so I don't think we have a choice on anything.
And now that the atmospheric river has passed, it's really going to be a pleasant weekend in Sacramento. Monica Woods has the forecast, plus she tells us when rain chances ramp up again.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods, and we are heading into our Friday with some patchy fog throughout much of the valley. Dry and warmer for the foothills and sunny for the Sierra, but tracking big changes heading our way next week. As far as our visibility, it is somewhat restricted right through the Central Valley here, especially along Highway 99, not as much along I-5. That will clear actually pretty quickly for today. Just a hint of a north wind will help to dry out the atmosphere ever so slightly. We've had some recent rain, and that has certainly helped to contribute to that recipe for some fog throughout the valley. As far as our statewide precipitation, again, we're still looking above average from Bakersfield all the way into Northern California, and still some precipitation moving through for our early Friday in extreme Northern California. The recent rain has cleared out the air with the blue skies that we see periodically. You can see some of the gorgeous color here throughout Plumas County and Placerville and El Dorado County, as well as towards the coast in Los Altos. That's near the Bay Area. So really starting to shine here with our fall color, moving into the urban forests and some of the orchards as well. Average peak color, well, it is pretty much migrating on track here. Early November is when we see it for the lower elevations, and that's pretty much right where we are right now. Again, some early precipitation on Friday for the north end of the valley, and then clearing as we head into the afternoon. That will lead us into a dry weekend forecast. Periods of cloud cover, but overall it's a dry outlook. Then we start gearing up for that bigger weather shift next week. Here's the low pressure system that we're going to be tracking. As that moves closer to the coast, we'll be talking about an atmospheric river storm by the middle of next week, with the potential of some heavy rain and even some higher elevation snow. Our Friday forecast for the high country: clear skies, highs are in the 50s. Moving into the foothills, highs will be in the 60s to right around the low 70s, pretty close to where we should be this time of year. The Central Sierra, highs are going to be in the 60s. As we move towards the Central Valley, highs will warm into the 70s after some patchy morning fog will clear those skies to mostly sunny conditions. Our Central Coast looks beautiful. We're at 70 for Morro Bay, Big Sur 75, Salinas 70 as we move inland. The San Joaquin Valley, highs are going to be in the 70s. Again, watch out for the morning fog, but then afternoon sunshine. Bay Area forecast, we're in the 60s as we move inland. Napa, wine country 73, and those grape leaves are starting to turn. It is just picture perfect right now. Northwest coast, we're still dealing with the remnants of this latest storm system that will bring us a few showers early on and then clearing for the afternoon. Near 70 for the north end of the Sacramento Valley. Moving a little bit closer to the capital region, highs are going to be in the lower 70s. A little warm for this time of year, but not too far off the mark. Overnight lows will be falling into the 50s. That's how we'll head into our second weekend of November, which is pretty ideal. A good opportunity to clear out the storm drains and get ready for the next round of wet weather heading our way. You can see the foothills and the mountains are going to be above average. We'll start to see some cooler conditions at the tail end of that, but overall unseasonably warm conditions continuing into our Saturday and Sunday, even for the coast as well, with a mix of sun and clouds. Moving on to our extended forecast, of course, that includes the weekend as well as Veterans Day. Will stay in the 70s, but again, trekking that atmospheric river storm heading into the middle and end of next week.
Taking you down to Southern California, it's going to be a nice weekend as well, but a heads up if you're headed to the coast. We've talked about king tides, and that's going to impact the coast as well as strong rip currents. Vanessa Paz has the details from San Diego.
Happy Friday from San Diego, California. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz. Let's go ahead and start off with one of my faves, a viewer photo. This was taken by Jim Grant, and this is kind of the luxury when we see these high tides, right, and big surf. We get incredible shots from our photographers. This was out in La Jolla, near La Jolla Village, and again, yeah, we were looking at some extreme beach conditions, ocean conditions, all due to the king tides that really peak in the morning, subside a little bit, but still still pretty high as we inch towards the mid-morning into the afternoon. Here are your weather headlines as we finish off the work week and inch towards the weekend. We'll have warming starting today all the way through the weekend. Now, when I say warming, we're not looking at an extreme jump in daytime highs, but interior parts of the valley are going to feel a lot warmer than where we should be for this time of year. And we're also looking at king tides to take over our coastline, mainly in the AM, and then we'll see the waves, or the tides, I should say, subside towards the afternoon and evening hours, giving way to extremely low tides, which is great for kids, even adults, to go tide pooling, and that'll be something to check out for sure this weekend if no one has plans. We're also looking at strong rip currents, so we always advise our viewers, again, people who live here, guests, to make sure that they're checking in with lifeguards and maybe opting out of the ocean if they're inexperienced, because again, those rip currents could be very dangerous, especially for inexperienced swimmers. We're looking at possible rain next week, and we'll take a look at that model in a moment. I do want to pull up the surf forecast because we are looking at a pretty big, nice swell bringing in 4 to 7 foot sets. Again, with the king tides, we could look at some minor coastal flooding, especially for those low-lying areas, the boardwalks, the parking lots. They could see some minor flooding. Today's high tide was aimed just before 9:30, close to 7 feet, and you can see that the king tides, or the high tides, actually start to die down a little bit looking ahead to Saturday morning. So here's what we're looking at in terms of the wind flow. We're going to see more of that easterly direction here, and that's going to allow for warming, and it's also going to dry things out when it comes to the canyon, passes, and mountain communities, especially when we talk about the west, those easterly winds blanketing the coast and inland valleys. So isolated gusts could get anywhere between 30 to 40 miles per hour or so. That's when we're seeing the strongest winds, and then they'll subside a little bit looking ahead to Sunday. Overnight lows will drop down into the 50s tonight. For anyone who may have plans, maybe happy hour or going to dinner with the family, I would dress in layers because we're looking at those temperatures to plummet by the time we get to sundown. Highs for tomorrow look like this. Will be in the upper 70s, low 80s, and those numbers will continue to climb. Big picture, that ridging eventually weakens next week, and we'll have a series of storms brewing off the eastern Pacific, and that could potentially bring us some showers late next week into the following weekend. Overall, here's what the coast and inland 7-day forecast looks like. We'll be in the high 60s tomorrow afternoon, climbing into the 70s Sunday and Monday. The warmth peaks Sunday and Monday were in the mid 80s for the inland valleys, and then 70s by the time we get to the middle of the week. The mountain areas will be in the high 70s all the way through about Tuesday, warming Wednesday, and then temperatures will come crashing down for both the mountains and deserts come next Thursday.
After the break, we'll stay in San Diego, where a Big Blue photo boat expedition made a big find. You never know what you'll find in the waters off of San Diego, and that's exactly what happened when Big Blue photo boat expeditions went out and ran into a giant tuna. Meteorologist Sean Stiles shows us the incredible find.
When you think of whale watching, you think of the bigger boats, not a rigid inflatable like this one that Big Blue Photo Expedition uses. The reason? It gives a much more intimate experience. Last week they were out on the 9-mile bank looking for orcas. They weren't there, but what they did find was extraordinary.
We got really excited because suddenly we saw the water erupt and it looked like the ocean was exploding.
What Captain Shearer and his guests were seeing was some really big tuna.
We saw just massive 300-pound tuna erupting out of the water. It looked like the ocean was splitting apart.
Shearer had taken his guests out last week looking for orca. Instead, the tuna were devouring giant schools of anchovies.
They were so dense that day, it looked like you could walk on them. They were out of the water and they were like leaping out in little fountains.
Oh my God! The orcas that they were looking for had pushed all the dolphin out of the area, the orca being the #1 predator of dolphin.
So when that happened, there were all these unattended anchovy schools, and the tunas took swift advantage.
Captain Shearer has spent most of his life living on the ocean and has a pretty good gauge of sea life.
The sea lion I saw was 200 pounds, so I'm estimating at least 300 pounds for that tuna.
This was not a one-off that lasted just a few minutes.
And each individual foamer is what the fishermen call them, showed up for up to a half hour at a time. and it lasted for like 4 hours.
And there was other sea life taking full advantage of these bait balls.
And then we'd see the fin whales suddenly gulp it down right behind us, but it was all around us.
Since Thursday, people are still looking.
Quite a few people asked me where they are now, and even as we were seeing them, they were moving so fast.
If you're thinking I'm just going to head back out to the 9 Mile Bank and find that big bait ball, chances are you won't find it. Like Matthias said, it's a big, wide open ocean. But if you'd like to do it with the folks here at Big Blue Photo Expeditions, I'll put a link on this web story so you can reach out to Matthias and have your own expedition. Sean Stiles, Earth 8.
You never know what is lurking in the waters. Well, when we come back, we'll continue our tour out west. And when we say winterizing our yards, we mean don't do anything. No, really. Leave those piles of leaves and leave your gardens a little messy. It might not look the best to you, but it's perfect for pollinators. We'll have that story coming up. Welcome back to Weather Out West. I'm Ashley Ruiz. Now let's take you to Colorado because there's a buzz about a new class at Colorado State. They have a new unique course that teaches veterinary students about honeybee health. With pollinator populations shrinking, staff say this is super important. They say not a lot of vets have training in honeybee medicine and they want to change that.
We've also learned a lot about just very devastating viruses and bacterial infections.
This past year, commercial beekeepers experienced one of the biggest colony die-offs in recorded history. Preliminary data is pointing to honeybee viruses.
And now that we've turned back the clocks and it's getting colder, it's time to start winterizing our homes. But we should also look at winterizing our yards. It's not for us, but for all the other creatures critical to our planet. Meteorologist Keely Chalmers joins us to explain.
It's that time of year when we turn up the thermostat and seal up our homes. But as we prepare our own shelters for the winter, we should think about keeping those shelters outside for those tiny creatures that are responsible for a lot of our food. We're talking about pollinators.
They support our food production, they support materials production, and they support the biodiversity of our planet as a whole.
According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the value of crop pollination in the U.S. alone has been estimated in the billions of dollars annually.
Our pollinators are incredibly important.
Ashley White is Community Habitats Manager at Butterfly Pavilion in Westminster. Her mission this fall? To get folks to leave their yards and gardens messy.
People tend to think that our pollinators die off or they all head out for the winter, but in fact, majority of them are staying right here with us in our gardens and in our outdoor spaces.
The problem, as our climate changes, the habitat for pollinators is also changing and in some cases disappearing.
So habitat loss is definitely being affected by climate, by weather changes, by temperature changes. The regimes that our plants are used to seeing historically are now changing.
Research has shown up to 40% of pollinator species on Earth may be at risk of extinction in the coming years as a result of habitat loss, the use of harmful pesticides, and climate change. And we're not talking just about bees.
But there's actually so many other pollinating creatures out there, including beetles, butterflies, moths, flies, actually.
So what specifically should we do to help these critical creatures?
Well, a lot of people want to kind of sterilize their gardens in winter. They want to cut back everything. They want to clean it all up. But that's kind of the worst thing that we can do for our pollinators.
Instead, leave things alone. Leave those stems and leaf litter to give those tiny creatures places to hide and shelter so they can make it to spring. When you think about it, it's an excuse to not clean. A winter pass of sorts that will protect our pollinators.
Well, you don't have to tell me twice. Staying in Colorado, and speaking of winter, Denver's Katie LaSalle is going to tell us when a winter weather pattern may return, and Kathy Sabin is tracking cooler weather over the weekend.
Hello from Denver, Colorado. I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin. We've had an interesting week of weather, and oh yeah, that big bright full moon along the Colorado Rockies and Continental Divide, almost a picture-perfect painting if you ask me. This from one of our viewers, Chris Lilly in the Westminster area. It's been an interesting pattern. Last weekend we had record highs, all-time record highs in the 80s. Throughout the week we've had highs close to record territory, and then we've also had a series of little short waves or weather systems crossing the state on the jet stream, moving from west to east. Not a lot happening here, though. The main story continues to be in the Pacific Northwest, the atmospheric river, a channel of water that comes into the western U.S. That means heavy flooding rain in areas like the Bay Area, Portland, Seattle. It also can mean heavy snow in the California Sierras or the Cascades through the Pacific Northwest. When all of that moisture hits this ridge, it goes up and over the top of Colorado. And so that's kind of been a problem for us. Although just yesterday we had a weak little disturbance drop low enough that we actually got a little bit of light snow in our northern mountains. A couple inches, not enough that was a big travel impact, and no winter weather or travel advisories. But we're hopeful that maybe another wave as the jet lowers might bring a few more snow showers to areas like Steamboat and Aspen. So it's not a lot, but it's fun to finally be talking about snow in November. We've also been talking about the wind, which is finally decreasing along the Front Range and should not be as big of an issue as we move throughout the afternoon. We'll start in the 40s, warm 60s today, an above average temperature trend that comes to an end today. We're cooler but dry for the weekend, and then warmer with highs back close to 70 degrees Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. Cold Arctic air is sliding just east of the Front Range and Eastern Plains late in the weekend, so it'll be interesting to see how close that cold air gets. We may have highs in the 40s on Sunday.
I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team's Katie LaSalle. Happy Friday to you. Here in Colorado, ski season is just getting going. Seeing some of the skiers and boarders making turns over Copper Mountain for opening day. Not a lot of fresh snow from Mother Nature, but it's been cold enough in the high country to continue to make the snow up into the mountains. Not talking snow just yet in the extended forecast here for Denver. So I want to look ahead because we are bracing for some weather changes after seeing some very gusty winds on Thursday. Temperatures are set to cool for the weekend. 60s for Friday here for the Denver area, and it'll be really warm and mainly dry next week. We are bracing and looking ahead to the next week, November 16th through the end of the month. We could be seeing some more notable winter weather impacting Colorado's high country and potentially Denver's first snowfall as we get into the end of the month. Mainly on November 19th is our next best chance. But as we look ahead, just comparing this date to last year, we saw a slow moving cutoff low impacting Colorado. Heavy wet snow came to the Denver area, and we saw over 50 plus inches of snow in portions of southern Colorado. We are not talking like that type of snowfall here. It's very low here across much of the state that we've seen any snow accumulation so far in 2025. So for tonight into early tomorrow morning, we do have the possibility of seeing a few brief flurries. Not a lot of notable snow accumulation for our northern mountains, but what we will be really feeling the impacts of is an Arctic air mass. This will impact mainly the central U.S., the Great Lakes, and then the East Coast eventually with some very cold, frigid air. Eastern Colorado, including the I-25 corridor and plains, will see the effects of that. The West Coast mainly staying mild and dry before a ridge of high pressure builds back in. Daytime highs are set to cool to slightly below average readings, as you can see from our 7-day forecast. 50s expected for Saturday, but it will stay very dry on the 7-day forecast. We are inching closer to one of the latest first snowfall dates here in Denver. The temperatures in the overnight hours are set to be colder, though, falling to the 20s by early Sunday morning and once again on Monday, and a high of only 49 degrees expected. Then as we head into next week, 60s and 70s, we will continue to track that next area that will bring us potentially some more snowfall. But as we look ahead, this next upcoming week, a very dry, mild one, at least for the Denver area.
And while it will be cooler in Denver this weekend, it's going to be hotter in Phoenix. Ginger Jeffries is tracking the potential for record highs.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries. We'll look at your weather out west across a great state of Arizona, where we have had sunshine in abundance this week, but coupled with the fact that we have above normal rainfall, and yeah, our skeeter meter is on the high side. We're not used to mosquitoes this time of the year. Our typical season is about from March to October, and we're really not outside a lot during those months simply because that's summertime. But all that monsoon rain brought around a fairly active mosquito season for us. So if you are going to be outside, just, word to the warning. Yeah, I went out for a hike yesterday and got face to face with many of those skeeters. Today, across Arizona, temperature-wise, really nice. I mean, Tucson, 84 November. You got to love it. 78 today in Globe. I've got 70 in Winslow, 65 in Flagstaff, 88 for Bullhead City, and about 85 today in Quartzsite. So high pressure continues to slide right into place, build in, keep the skies clear, allowing the temperatures to elevate and also cutting us off from all that cool, moist air that's parked in the Pacific Northwest. So you want to talk about a holding pattern. We are going to hold with the dominant sunny skies through the early part of next week. And then that's when it looks like some changes are coming around. Things you'll notice. First of all, temperatures starting to come down, clouds starting to build in, and we are setting up for some rain. I know it's a long range forecast, so let's tackle with what's coming in this weekend first. On Sunday, we have potential to break a record. 89 degrees. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal for us desert dwellers. If it's not in the 90s, that's record heat. Well, it's kind of a low record for us. Only 88 degrees, a record set back in 2005. So yeah, with that little pop of warm air preceding the cold front, that has potential to bring in some rain in the long range forecast. Yeah, we're going to go from record heat to potentially rain all in 1 week. And who says weather in the desert doesn't change? Well, take a look at this long range forecast model. And again, we're looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So next weekend, 20 to 40% chance for rain. And I know that's fairly minimal, but for us, it's a big deal, especially since it's a long range forecast. And I continue to see it go up and up. So I will keep you posted on that. Until that time, remember, skeeter meter is on the high side through the weekend into next week. We don't see this life cycle dying off quite yet. And again, if we add a little bit of rain to it, we're going to get another little bloom. So ample sunshine on this Friday with daytime highs at about 86 degrees. Winds out of the east at 5 miles an hour, which, yes, 86 is above the normal range. 81 is where I'd like to be talking about. That means a bulkier day in the 70s. But again, we're riding a high ridge. No records yet. I expect that by Sunday. And look at these overnights. My goodness, definitely on the cooler side for us. 52 in Buckeye, 57 in Scottsdale, 54 in Chandler, about 61 in Phoenix, and 53 tonight in Sun Lakes. All right, on your Saturday, temperatures are going to stay the course as noted. Flagstaff, that means the low to mid 60s. I think you'll feel those overnights in the 30s. Look at this, point of freezing for Saturday and Sunday. But again, your temperature stretch about 62 to 65 here in the valley. We're spanning about 85 to 89 with, again, overnights in the upper 50s and low 60s.
Coming up after a quick break, we're headed back up to the Northwest to check in with Spokane's Thomas Patrick and Boise's Hector Mendoza. Welcome back to Weather Out West on this Friday. Now we're going to head back up to Washington, eastern Washington now, where drier and breezy weather returns to Spokane. Thomas Patrick tells us how long this will last before the next big system rolls in.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington. Check it out. It's already sunny today. One of the first times this entire week. Just took to Friday to get there. Bit of a drier forecast heading into this weekend. We will take that after 4 straight days of rainy weather, some days more than others. But it was kind of nice to get the soaking wet rains. Now it's also equally as nice to get the dry weather. So we're a bit more focused on the winds and the fog for the weekend ahead, and then we'll worry about our next chances of rain next week when we get there. So here was last night's storm system, now well over Montana as of Friday morning. When this whipped through, well, we got some very gusty winds to go along with the heavy rains. Some of the strongest wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour. So there's probably a ton more leaves down on the ground if you check it this morning. Now, the winds are still rushing in behind that cold front. Won't be as bad as it was last night. Those winds, though, have helped to clear out a lot of those skies. We have a big rain shadow effect. I mean, look at this. Just a few light scattered showers on the west side. Zero chance that crosses the Cascades. The mountains themselves not only squeezing out the moisture from the rain, but even the cloud cover itself, leaving our skies perfectly clear for central and eastern Washington, only redeveloping back into clouds for North Idaho when they hit that next mountain range. Here were those maximum wind speeds from last night. That cold front passed through at about 1 a.m. That was the strongest we got. The rest of the day will stay a bit breezy, especially for eastern Washington and the Palouse. Wind gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour. Definitely not severe. Not going to cause any damage. Nothing more than maybe a few more leaves on the ground by the end of the day. That we can handle, though it may be a bit annoying at times. The weekend will be much calmer. Both Saturday and Sunday, not much, if any, wind. I just call it 5 to 10 miles per hour, and that barely noticeable in the first place. Temperatures will hover right at about 50 degrees, which isn't bad for early November. That is above average for Spokane by just a couple degrees, but 50 is going to be a common number you see next week as our weather pattern remains fairly mild for the season standards. The only thing that we might have to be aware of on Saturday is the morning fog. All that rain we got recently, more than an inch this week, will finally materialize as fog for Saturday morning. It wasn't this morning because of the winds themselves kind of preventing that fog layer from developing. We won't be so lucky tomorrow when those winds finally do calm down. The more fog we get, the cooler will ultimately be. On Sunday, those temperatures pop back up to about 50 degrees. Though the conditions stay dry through the weekend thanks to a nice ridge. Next week, we'll get our fair share of rain chances, the jet stream helping with a Monday shower chance, and then a future storm system that will develop in the Pacific. That's going to be almost a week away from even arriving on the West Coast. So we got some time before we worry about our next heavy rain event. Instead, it's just about the dry conditions this weekend. A bit breezy today, a little bit foggy on Saturday morning. In the meantime, temperatures stay slightly above average for the season and in the low 50s more often than not.
And like Spokane, get ready for a pleasant weekend if you live in southwestern Idaho. Hector Mendoza has your weekend forecast from Boise.
Well, it was a beautiful way to cap off the day yesterday. This is a look out at Idaho Falls. As you can see, the golden hour as we have golden sort of colors out onto the distance there. This is as the sun started to set. Wendy posted this on our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook page, and man, it was a comfortable day yesterday as temperatures were into the low 60s across the Treasure Valley, and that includes areas there through Idaho Falls as we look on into the east, as we did see some comfortable temperatures. But if we look up into the mountains, coldest temperatures we saw in terms of afternoon highs was at 39 degrees out in Stanley. And we stuck around those mid 50s to upper 50s down into the Magic Valley. So we look at Jerome and we look at Twin Falls. Now, we did have some rain that came along, but it took its time to make its way through in portions of the Treasure and Magic Valleys, as we didn't really see or have enough of that moisture to really register any sort of amounts. But we did get a trace of some of those showers there as we got them late last night and very early on this morning here through Friday. And we saw a little bit more of those tolers kind of favoring places in the central mountains. But as we look at the satellite radar picture here for Friday morning, we've continued to see most of those showers have made their way on out. They've lingered there for portions of the west central and central mountains, with again some of those elevations there around 5,000 to 6,000 feet that have seen some of those snow flurries and are expecting to stack up just a little bit as we get on through today and through the rest of our Friday. But as we look on ahead, again, we talk about some of those lighter showers that stick around here through Friday afternoon. Then those winds start to pick up as we look at places here through the valleys. But as we get on towards tonight, we start to see clearing, so we start to see a little less of those showers. Clouds start to make their way out, and that's going to allow for some cooling as those winds are also going to light up through tonight. Then as we get on towards Saturday and Sunday, we're going to start to see a little bit of a warm up and dry conditions that'll stick around there for the middle of the week. So as we look at the future cast here, this is a look at Friday. All the way through, we start to see as we get towards the afternoon, that's when we start to see some of those drier conditions. Clouds will come and go, but stay pretty light as we're going to see mostly sunny skies as we get on through tomorrow. And then after that, we see that those dry conditions stick around at least till the middle of the week. It's not until Thursday and Friday that we're anticipating a little bit more of those showers to start to come along, as we have another system that comes in and starts to break through some of that ridge that we're seeing build itself up here in through the weekend. And here's a look at this ridge as it starts to build. So today, we're expecting those temperatures to stick around, very seasonal temperatures there for today and tomorrow. And then that ridge really starts to build on into Sunday, and that's going to continue all the way through Monday. We'll see it flatten out there as we get closer in through Monday night. And as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, it'll rebuild just a bit. And here's that system that's expecting to bring in a little bit more of that precipitation that comes along in through Thursday and in through Friday. So as we look at our 7-day forecast, temperatures are down into the low 50s there through Saturday. We're going to see a lot more of that sunshine that sticks around there through Sunday. Temperatures will start to climb up into the upper 50s and then return into the low 60s, and morning temperatures will also start to warm up as we get closer in through Thursday. And that's exactly what we're expecting here in terms of our 7-day forecast here in Boise, as we're going to take its time before those temperatures really start to climb out of those 50s, get into those 60-degree temperatures, but we are expecting a little bit more clouds here. So we'll have a little less of that sunshine compared to the Magic Valley, but we are going to see that by the time we get towards Veterans Day, 60-degree temperatures return. And then again, we keep an eye on some of the showers that are expected late into next week there for Thursday and Friday.
Stick with us. We'll have more coming up. Before we wrap things up on this Friday, let's take a final check on all the forecast. For Seattle, you see decreasing showers today, a little bit of fog for Saturday and Sunday mornings, and then shower chances return the early half of the week with increasing rain late next week. For Spokane, some morning fog, cooler over the weekend, and mornings going to be rather chilly. Next week, we'll have a couple of showers in the mix on Monday, partly cloudy skies on Tuesday with more rain returning by the end of the week, kind of similar to Seattle. And then Boise, you heard Hector mention that we'll have some sun and then more clouds Sunday and Monday. Filtered sunshine, mostly sunny on Tuesday. For our Wednesday, mostly cloudy and then partly cloudy by Thursday. For our friends in Portland, Oregon, showers come to an end today, a mix of sun and clouds on Saturday after a cool start around 44 degrees. And then Sunday, sunny and breezy, could have some wind gusts there. And then on Monday, a couple of showers, especially later in the day, quick moving system there. Shower chances Tuesday and Wednesday with rain returning by the end of next week. Another atmospheric river, and that goes for Sacramento as well. You heard Monica mention that earlier. Rain ramps up, rain chances ramp up by Thursday, but until then, we'll have dry skies, a mix of sun and clouds. The warmest day for the next 7 days will be on Monday, mostly cloudy then as well, 77 degrees. And then in sunny San Diego, going to be mostly sunny, very mild, especially Sunday and Monday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, more clouds begin to move in, and the same goes on Thursday. Temperatures will be cooler in the upper 60s and lower 70s. And then for Phoenix, you heard Ginger mention record high temperatures expected on Sunday. Sunshine near 90 degrees. Previous record is 88 degrees, so you see likely going to achieve that. On Monday, 88, and then temperatures start to come down with slight chances for rain may return by the middle half of next week, mid to late next week. Much cooler for our friends in Denver, especially on Sunday after a cold start in the 20s. And then next week, jumping right back up to 70 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds. That's going to do it for us here on Weather Out West on this Friday. I'm meteorologist Ashley Ruiz, and as always, we thank you so much for being with us today. We'll see you right back here on Monday.